You're in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get a rant by becoming one of those people. Today's request comes from Sly Bones, who says, right, so there's this guy, right? There's this guy. There's this fucking guy called RetroGamerKevin. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a Twitter account. He's even got a DeviantArt. And he has links to all of these. But none of that's important. None of that stuff is important at all. What is important is the shit he gets up to in the Endless War server. He's like a role player, I guess? It's clearly all a joke, but you need to see this shit, and I demand you rant about it. Here's a small compilation of his recent nonsense in loose reverse chronological order because Discord rightly shows recent messages first. I guess I'll put that on screen or something. So I've heard about RetroGamerKevin. The PCP boys have told me about him, and I'll explain it for the audience. So, inside of the Endless War Discord server, if you don't know what that is, I don't know how far I can help you, but in fact, I'll try, because I gotta pad out the time in this thing. So, my good friends, Ben Saint and Munchie, who are part of the Procrastinators podcast, which I am a part of, semi-regularly, they have a server, they have a show called Rowdy Fuckers Cop Killers on the PCP channel where they just play video games and talk for like hours on end. And they created, out of the branding of this show, a game called Endless War, which is played through a Discord server. It is a Discord MMO that is also largely role-playing driven. So even though it has a bunch of crazy-ass mechanics that don't even ask me to explain how the fucking game works, it's you just gotta kind of jump in and learn it yourself. If you want to be a part of a gigantic social experiment, we could call it a social media MMO. Go join the Endless War server. But like, in this server, then there's like this, this imaginary narrative sort of what's going on in this game that everybody participates in. And amidst all this is a guy named RetroGamerKevin, who basically claims to be the, I think 11th member of the PCP. And he, role plays about his life in, an alternate universe in which the PCP all seemingly live together, they all live in PCP HQ, and interact constantly. And also, past members who are no longer in it are still there. And he is also there. RetroGamerKevin. But because he's also, obsessed with some specific, PC racing game, he's constantly, creating narratives about us, racing him. About, everybody in the PCP getting into races, whether it be in the game or I don't even know. The stuff I've read is all confusing. It feels like a fever dream. The way he writes, he just kind of springs in out of nowhere and says things like, just had a wicked race with Nate, but Jeff spilled soup all over his shirt and got real upset, like he's daily vlogging, but via text, his experiences with being the 11th member of the PCP. It's very weird and surreal to read, because sometimes I read this stuff and I get confused, because it's the names of my friends, and I read it and I'm like, what the fuck? Nate did what? Or, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh. And he also writes in, a kind of like Jaden Smith, caps at the start of each word, sometimes. Maybe it's because he's writing it like headlines. That was the impression I got, was that he was writing headlines of some kind. It's a bit confusing, to say the least. I guess I should say how I feel about this type of thing, because he didn't really ask me to rant in any particular way. He just says, I demand you rant about it. So, I mean, I don't know what the hell to think of stuff like this, because I look at it and I think this is creative, and it's not particularly funny. It's very weird, but it's funny how weird it is. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to acknowledge the existence of. Obviously this dude who wrote this fucking Sly Bones had a great fucking time writing about RetroGamerKevin. Like, he's excited. He's like rubbing his hands together, ready to spill the news, just as Ben and Munchie were when they explained it to the rest of us. And we all listened, and we thought it was funny, and nobody was like, "Oh, we got to put a stop to this." Nobody was like, "Oh God, what have we done?" We were all just kind of like, "That's weird," you know. All right. I just, like, you know, we just kind of hope it doesn't go too far, I guess. Like, as long as it's just a guy doing a weird role play, as long as he's not, like, sincerely trying to get into the PCP or something, like, then it's just a funny, weird gag. It's just that, like, he turns up in such odd places, and, like, the way he sticks to the character, it's like you can't tell, you know, you can't tell what his intentions are. Like, what is he getting out of it? What is the ultimate goal? Is it just that is it just funny, or is there any incentive to do this so extensively and for so long? I guess that's what makes it mesmerizing. You know, it's like looking at, you know, there's like lol cows and there's performance artists, and you're like, sometimes you can't tell the difference between the two, and like you study it because you're trying to figure out which one it is, you know. And I think that's kind of the story here. So yeah, that's my rant on Retro Gamer Kevin, I guess. Next rant.